spoke about allocating funds to different either expenses, things that you are looking at possibly purchasing, and other things. But would you kindly stress on how you handle black tax? How are you dealing with your parents? How are you dealing with your siblings? How are you dealing with these things that come that you do not plan for, like weddings, kitchen parties, where on this, as well as other expenses that are just coming in that you did not plan for as a couple, or even as people that are not married? How do they need to approach those?
Yeah, that's a very, very important question. So in that conversation we had 4 months after we started dating, that's one of the things I addressed, because on my side of the family, I also have my parents to think of. So specifically my mom, right? So I know that's it's fixed. I can't run away from it. So I had to front load the conversation and say, this is the expense I have. And from that conversation, she understood, okay, this is the situation and we have to help in this direction. So that is fixed and it's within the budget. It's within that 50% we spoke of. So that is guaranteed always. When it comes to these other expenses that come abruptly, so for example, you're added to a wedding committee, things like that. So we look at the time frame we have, right? We say, okay, maybe we have 6 months to the wedding, sometimes even 3 months to the wedding. You know, if it's a 500 minimum, we say, okay, let's meet that 500 first and clear off whatever we'll give on top. That will be excess as we see our finances permit us. So that's the approach we sort of take. And that 500 will most likely come from our emergency fund. Yes, because usually that's excess money that just goes there. Excess money that goes there. So we'll probably get it from there and give. So that's how we handle it. And obviously there are also those things where somebody randomly just comes to you and asks you for help. Then we'll have to have a conversation. If it's significant amount, we have to have a conversation. If it's, for example, 100 kwacha, I'll probably get it from so from our budget there's also what an amount my wife gets. Yes, sure. That's just
apart from that,
really hard to put it out there.
I get it, man.
I
hope they do
For the hair,
I don't know
makeup.
what happens with
before
the money,
planning. That's tax.
And there's also money that I also keep just to run my own
your own personal life.
So barber shop and all those other things. I'll get that 100 kwacha from that money and give the person. And I obviously don't have to come and report to say I used money. It's a small amount, right? Coming from my own allowance. So if she does the same, if there's somebody asking for money and she has room within her allowance, she'll just give and solve that immediate need. So that's how we look at it.
For sure.
Wow. A lot of questions asked and answered.
I think it's important. Our counselors, Pastor Sondashi and Mrs. Sondashi, when we were doing premarital counseling, had told us this, to say, you have to have a conversation about black tax, family expectations, because both of us coming from families where we are the firstborns and there's all that responsibility. So it's important that you have a conversation with your spouse or your spouse to say, look, these are the responsibilities I have. For me, he made it clear, and therefore it went into our budget. It's fixed. It's non-negotiable. Our parents have to be in our budget. But if you don't tell your spouse and you expect them to know, then one day you're in the marriage and he sends the money. And that's just also another thing that we deliberately do. If we are sending money to his mom, it always comes from me. I always send the money, and vice versa, just to show that unity front in terms of your as a family. Because when the family knows that, to say, I can't call my daughter separately to say, I want this, send me this, without the spouse knowing, it creates friction, because one day she'll come and mention to him to say, thank you, and then he's which money did we release? So we've created that unity front, that even when we're sending money to my family, he sends that fund. Even my brother, anyone that we're sending money to, he sends it, so that they indirectly know, to say, these people are one. And therefore, as we are approaching them, we have to approach them as one. If it's a significant amount, I'll tell my family, I have to discuss with my husband, and then we'll get back if need be. But the smaller amounts, we always, your cousin will send, I have the fund that he mentioned.
Yeah.
That's, I can easily just release that fund. Yeah.
Okay. So, the last question.
Yeah.
Share a money might you have learned to avoid as a couple.
I think debt management. That's okay for me. I've had several conversations with different people on. I'm in debt. I don't know what to do. Right, and you have to sit with the person and sort of ask them difficult questions like how much do you make, and what are your expenses. So you sort of begin to manage things for them. Just to help them come out of debt. One of the principles we use, and I've lived with this even before I met my wife. If you can't pay back, don't get the money.
Okay, sure.
If you can't pay back, don't get the money. And there's a lot of places you can get financing nowadays. Obviously, certain places you'll be charged ridiculous interest rates. Ridiculous interest rates.
Sure.
And you have to really think about it before you make that decision. As much as it may relieve you now, you're actually creating problems for yourself in the future. And you have to think of that. You have to be aware of that.
Sure.
And you have to plan. Whenever you're getting money, you need to plan to say, how am I going to pay this back? Because it becomes now a fixed expense you have to address every month consistently until it's done.
Awesome.
Right? So you're burdening yourself, and you need to gauge yourself. Do I have the strength to carry this burden? Right? So for us, our rule is if we can't pay back, let's not get the money. So there are several cases, trust me, several cases where money became something to cripple even a marriage, a business, and all those things.
For sure. I think he's put up a very important point. Debt management, and also don't hide any debt from your spouse. Sure. I think that's the biggest mistake you can make. Whether you got someone was selling something at work, you got something on credit, no matter how small it is, it's very important that your spouse is aware. It's very important that it goes into the budget, because what will happen is that the day that you get paid and you've done your budget, and you say, oh, there's this 300 I got, there's this 500 I got, and then your spouse said, but what's happening? So it's always important to let your spouse into anything, everything, money. Be as transparent as you can be. It will save you a lot of stress. Whether it was done before you got married, you had this date, no matter how embarrassing it is, let your spouse know. Handle it together as a family.
What she's spoken about is actually called financial infidelity.
Okay. So
you have to be transparent always. Why? Because it also causes you to lose trust. Immediately you find out your partner went ahead to get this huge debt, or even if it's small, but they didn't inform you. That alone begins to make you think, what else? Bro, in the future, if there's a pressing need I don't know about, what would my partner do? That alone can cause a lot of mistrust in a home, and as two people moving in the same direction, you have to rely on each other. That vulnerability needs to be there, and you can't be vulnerable if you don't trust your partner. So you really need to think of it from a trust perspective, and trust is very important to keep your marriage. As much as it may be embarrassing, you have to come through and just say what needs to be said.
Awesome. Thank you very much. This has been the Bread of Life Young Adults Ministry podcast, and I've been your host, Pastor Ngosankandi. And I was joined by Mr. and Mrs. Mulenga. We've been talking about everything finances in marriage as individuals as well. We'll see you on the next podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Top on my list, I needed a man that was God-fearing.
Sure.
This means a man that had a personal relationship with God, and the man that had character. Character, I mean that, as he pursues his God, he starts to, be transformed into the image of Christ Jesus.